We're at number 4 now in the deadly sins. It's cool that sloth, as you go up Mount Purgatory, it's at the dead center. So you've got 3, and then you got 4, and then you got 3 more. It's like at the dead center. And the way Dante puts the Divine Comedy together, it's at the very center of the entire poem. It's like the dead center on purpose. The 4th deadly sin, sloth. The medievals had a beautiful name for sloth. They call it the noonday devil. You know, noonday, there's something kind of sleepy about noonday. You know, you wake up and you do your morning work and you're kind of energetic, and then you have lunch. It happened to me today because I left Chicago. I woke up at 4:30 to get the plane to come here, and so we had a nice lunch. And then after lunch, I knew I had these 2 talks to give. I went back to my room and I slept, for a few minutes. The noonday devil. Here's Thomas Aquinas' definition of sloth. Again, pithy and helpful. Sloth is sorrow for spiritual good. Very interesting. Sorrow for spiritual good. See, you can be the most energetic person in the world. You can be Mr. Go-Getter. Your appointment calendar can be filled, and you can be filled with sloth at the same time. It's not the same as like high energy. It's sorrow or depression in regard to spiritual things. Spiritual things leave me, I guess, yeah, maybe. See, that's sloth. That's the deadly sin. It's a kind of boredom of the soul, if I can put it that way. Your mind might be engaged, your body engaged, and all that, relationships, but the level of soul, there's a torpor or a boredom. That's sloth. I love this from Karl Barth, the great Protestant theologian. Much revered, by the way, I was going to say Duke. I'm not in Duke country now. I'm in, right? Forget about Duke. Just forget about Duke. I didn't even mention Duke. I'll be there tomorrow, so I can use my Duke example. Anyway, Karl Barth, forget about Duke, but Karl Barth said, the distinctive sin of our time, he says, not pride, it's sloth. It's really insightful that it's our secularist time. Secularism, full of energy, look at building buildings and cities and technology and all of it. But when it comes to spiritual things, there's a kind of boredom, difference, who knows, who cares? You do what you want. Benedict XVI was so strong on the danger of relativism, wasn't he? The dictatorship of relativism. What's relativism? It's what I call the culture. You ever see the kids? Whatever. You ever see that? Whatever. See, but that's at the popular level, postmodernism. Whatever. You got your values, I got mine. It's true for you. It's not true for me. I'll tolerate you, you tolerate me. See, but listen, would we ever accept that in any area of life that we take seriously? So we're trying to make the next, I just got this new fancy iPhone 6. I'm sure there's an iPhone 7 now that's already made this. But there's someone right now, probably in this, what do you call it again, the research, the research triangle. There's someone right now in the research triangle who is desperately trying to get a better iPhone. Could you imagine someone coming along and saying, who cares? Who cares about it? Yeah, that's one way to do it, but there's another way to do it. No, they're really focused, right, on what's the best way to do this. They're full of purpose and energy when it comes to making iPhones. But when it comes to values, ultimate meaning, what's the purpose of my life, we tend to fall into a, whatever. See, and that's what causes the trouble in our society. This image is from Cardinal Newman, one of my great heroes. Newman says, what gives a river energy? What's the river around here? It must be a famous river, right? Is it the Duke River? No, I know, it's not the Duke. I know, it's not the Duke River. The Eno. The Eno. So, I never heard of that. So the Eno River, what gives it energy? Newman would say it's the firmness of its banks. If a river has firm banks, then it moves, it goes, it has a purpose. What happens if you knock down the banks? Just get rid of them, just knock them down. Well, the river will then open up into this big, lazy lake, right? What's happened to our society spiritually, Karl Barth would have said, and I say it now, is the river, we've knocked down the banks of what's good, what's true, what's beautiful. Whatever. And what's happened is the river's opened up in this big, lazy lake. And we're all floating on the lake on our own little private air mattresses, tolerating each other. You know, I'll tolerate you, tolerate me. You do what you want, I'll do what I want. But see, there's no energy, there's no life, there's no purpose, there's no oomph in that kind of society. That's sloth at the grander level, but it happens on the inside too. What's the antidote to sloth? It's zeal for the mission. Zeal for the mission. Mission is a word that's been revived in a lot of recent theology. I'm happy it has. It's from the Latin word mittere, right, which means to send. Jesus calls himself the one who's been sent. He refers to the Father as the one that sent me. Some old enough in the room to remember in the old Mass, ite missa est, right? The Mass is ended, but what that means is go, it's been sent. It's been sent. Go out on mission. Mission. In the Bible, everybody, in the Bible, no one has ever given an experience of God without being at the same time sent. There's no exception to it. No one ever sees God or hears from God without being at the same time sent. Whether we're talking about Abraham, we're talking about Jacob, about Moses, about Joshua, about David, about Samuel, about Saul, Peter, James, and John, there's no exception. Everyone that is addressed by God is sent on mission. In fact, Balthazar, whom I mentioned earlier, said, you don't really know who you are until you found your mission. Mission is tied to person, which is why it's only when Saul sees the risen Jesus that he becomes Paul. It's only when Simon is addressed by Jesus that he becomes Peter. It's only when Jacob wrestles with the angel that he becomes Israel. We know who we are in the measure that we've been sent on mission. The whatever culture is inimical to this. Oh, Bishop, I'll make up what I want to do. I'll decide. You tolerate me, I'll tolerate you. Ho hum. You see how we're the big lazy lake? We need to be a church full of missionary disciples, as Pope Francis has said beautifully. Disciples who've been sent. Here's some practical advice. In the remaining weeks of Lent, everybody, work on discerning and refining your sense of mission. Now, probably most of us in this room have a sense of mission, of how we've been sent by God. And mind you, far more important than our families, more important than our jobs, more important than our status in society, more important than any of that, is this question. How have I been sent by God? Every baptized person, a mission was placed in you. You might have been a little baby, but a mission was placed in you. You know the acorn theory? Did you ever hear that? It's a cool theory in sort of psychology and spirituality that every one of us has planted in the heart like an acorn that's meant to grow into this oak tree of our identity, right? And what happens is at key points in life that acorn is stirred, and we know, yes, that's it. That's it. I remember I was maybe 15 or so. I was a sophomore in high school, and we had an assignment in English class. We all had to pick a famous speech and get up and deliver it in front of the class. Well, no one had ever given a speech. We 15-year-olds were all terrified. I took a section of John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, I remember. And there I was, and I was nervously, reading this speech. But as I was reading it, I remember the sort of cadence. JFK's speeches had that cadence and that rhythm and that poetry. As I was reading that speech in front of my goofball classmates, in high school, but something stirred in me. And as I'm standing before you now, that most of my life I've been a public speaker. Most of my life I've been in front of crowds talking. It was like that moment the acorn was stirring. It was like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Now, I didn't really know what form that would take exactly. But I spent most of my life doing what I'm doing right now, Well, I think that happens to all of us, is that acorn gets stirred. That's mission. Take some time during the remainder of Lent to discern and refine your sense of mission. Here's another bit of advice, real practical. Dorothy Day, one of my heroes, said, everything a baptized person does every day, every day, should be related to the corporal or spiritual works of mercy. Again, maybe some old enough to remember the list of the corporal works of mercy, right? Feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, visit the imprisoned, visit the sick, bury the dead, etc. Remember? Or the spiritual works of mercy, counsel the doubtful, bear patiently the troublesome, etc. Look those up. Maybe younger people, go online, you'll find them. Look them up. The corporal and spiritual works of mercy. Your mission will be tied somehow to those. Everyone's mission, somehow. Which one of them stirs the acorn in you? Might be a cool question. Which one of those, like that's it. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. Take a look at the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. Oh, here's the Marian counterexample, which I love. So as the slothful are being punished on purgatory, they're made to run. It's like a health club. They're made to run because they've been sitting around. See? But the Marian counterexample is the angel says, she proceeded in haste. Remember where that's from? Is after the Annunciation, and she gets her mission, and she knows, I got to go see my cousin Elizabeth. And it says, she went in haste into the hill country. Good. She knew exactly who she was, exactly what she was about, and man, there wasn't an ounce of sloth in her. See? Can we say that? That, boy, I know what I'm doing. I proceed in haste. All right.